We're live. Hey, everybody. Good morning. We're live at Startup Portal. I'm Graham Dodge. I'm the Executive Director of Mid-Atlantic Gigabit Innovation Collaboratory, or MAGIC for short. We are a community sponsor here of 1 Million Cups. Thank you for joining us here in Startup Portal. Our other community sponsor, thank you to Rick for supporting us and hosting here at Startup Portal. Thank you for those of you attending via Facebook Live. If you have any questions or comments during our presenters' presentation this morning, please feel free to put them on Facebook and we'll read them out loud in real life here. Also, thank you to Jeannie Bird Baking Company for supplying once again the baked goods, the butter horns, the scones. I believe there's still like gingerbread scones again today. And then we also have coffee from Jeannie Bird, so thank you, Bernie, for continuing to support 1 Million Cups. And for those of you who want to get some coffee virtually, so to speak, go to furnacehills.com and you get 25% off your entire online order using the code 1MC Westminster, all one word. So thank you to Dave Baldwin and the Furnace Hills Coffee Company, which is now over at Town Mall in Westminster. So we have one presenter today. I'm just going to show you real quick what 1 Million Cups is all about before we introduce them. The 1 Million Cups mission is to lower the barrier for access to education, resources, and connections for entrepreneurs. I really ought to have this memorized by now. I don't know why I haven't. The mission does not get accomplished without the core, without the pillars of the core program, which are that these are presentations, not pitches. People here presenting aren't trying to sell us something. This is about connection, not networking. The culture of 1 Million Cups is to be for the community, by the community. There's about 170 1 Million Cups communities around the country. Ours actually happens to be the only one in the state of Maryland. Next closest ones are in Vienna, Virginia, and DC. Nobody has ownership of 1 Million Cups Westminster. Nobody's being paid to do this. All of the people that put this together are all volunteering their time and resources. And we, of course, always want to be radically and intentionally inclusive. We meet every week, Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Sometimes we don't have a presenter, but we usually try to have two. Sometimes it's one. But if we have none, then we'll still gather and we'll have community updates, which is actually a lot of fun as well. We have the presenters themselves usually need to be organizations that are less than 5 years old. However, we have made some exceptions when an older business or a more established business has like a new initiative that they want to promote and they're looking for help doing that. And then we always end with the question, what can we as a community do to help you? These are the organizers and the volunteers. Myself from MAGIC, Russ Hammett, Vicki Slinkman from Ting, Jonathan Wheatman, attorney at law, Tina Thomas from Infinite Love Project, Julia Snap III of Dirigible Systems, and Gabby Rose, also of MAGIC. So without further ado, I will call up our presenter today, Leandro from Susten.energy. Let me get the queued up here. All right, there you go. Come on up, Leo. There you go. Take it away.
Thank you for having me here today. I recently moved here to Carroll County from New York to Montgomery County, now Carroll County here, and it's a pleasure to meet you guys and do this presentation for you and hope to collaborate, right? So Susten.energy is a sustainable energy solutions company. So we work towards reducing our clients' carbon emissions and energy consumption and energy cost. We basically save money and the environment. That's our mission. We, that's are present now in Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, and we're expanding through a model of brand licensing, franchising that allow us to have local partnerships, right? So we just added yesterday another partner in Connecticut, and we expanded to Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas now. So it's been exciting times for the whole renewable energy sector in general, and we were part of this wave, right, of building a more sustainable society. Start for the energy part of it. right? So we service businesses to reduce their carbon emissions, and we collaborate with impact investors that want to make it happen. And we basically uh, make money building a solar energy system that is gonna deliver a more sustainable society. We were founded in 2014 in New York. A little bit different model than now. We're focusing more on the engineering side of the business, not on the project development. So, but we then expanded in 2019 to India, where we have part of our back office, on this some project development, and Brazil last year. And some location here, hopefully to be present in 17 states by the end of 2017. As we operate as a general contractors, right? In order to sell any project involved construction, you have to be licensed. Sometimes at state level, sometimes at county level, sometimes at city level. So it's complicated to expand territorially when you are the one doing the project itself. But that's how we chose it to be in this model of joint venture partnerships where we can grow with the local ownership. Our solutions on the clean tech side, our main solutions are solar, photovoltaic, solar with storage, especially batteries and backup generators for resilience, high efficiency LEDs and electric vehicle charging stations. We also have some consulting services in the energy field, energy deregulation, cell power, right? If you cannot put solar in your property, but you want to buy renewable energy, we can help you procure that renewable energy, and receive that to the utility company, right? We audit your bill to see if you're not paying more, and make sure that make sure you don't get scared like this guy, like surprised. What? This is my bill. So we try to avoid that to be you. In the project development side, we do the engineering, the procurement, the construction, and also the operation maintenance of these mostly solar energy assets, right? That's our core business. On the carbon side, we can do reporting, carbon footprint calculation and neutralization. We can certify carbon emissions and provide advisory on the green building constructions like LEED, natural green building standards, all of it. Now, the benefits of the clean tech, right, in general, is, show a commitment to the environment, right? You enjoy the savings on your energy bill, because if you're not buying for power from the utility company, you're saving money, right? It requires very minimal maintenance, right? Solar panels, once you put in there, you literally don't have to do anything on it. You just keep, every time the sun comes out, it starts working. That's it. It's simple like that. It increases your property value, and it has a very long lifetime. The equipment, most of the equipment we use in the projects have a 25 years warranty. So they'll last 30, 40 years, easy, right? The schedule of a project is you get the contract signed, we do the engineering, get the approvals from utility company, Department of Buildings, the state, whatever, you gotta get the blast installed in between 4 and 12 weeks. We get the project installed, and we enjoy 25 plus years of savings. These are some of our projects. We do residential, we do commercial, we do, this is community solar, right? So we do all type of projects. This is some of our partners. So we have 3 here type of partners represented. One are financing partners, right? To do project development, funding is essential. We do nothing without third-party money. this entire universe of clean energy only exists because there are people injecting money in. And they're making their money, but they're also helping lots of people save a lot more of money. We need equipment. So here we have an inverter manufacturer, solar panel manufacturer, and the mounting system manufacturer. We need these three guys every single project. And here are some of the agencies that locally create regulatory framework and incentives that makes these projects feasible or sometimes more attractive if they are already feasible, right? So the Connecticut Green Bank, we're affiliated with them, got a lot of money from them, and they have good regulators. New Jersey, New York, and Maryland have a good state renewable energy credit. It's a good state to be in. Projects are feasible. The electricity cost is not super high, but still it makes sense to do it. The financing models that we have, if you're a homeowner or a business owner, and you say, look, I wanna put solar panels here. I wanna do energy efficiency improvements to my property, right? We can either get a bank financing loan, right, or you can have what we call a third-party ownership, which is an investor that put their money in, right, and get paid back in the long run, right? Most of the projects we do have some kind of financing model involved because, again, these are projects that are gonna last 25, 30, 40 years saving money, right? But they have a payback. 5 years, 7 years, sometimes 10 years payback, right? So to come up with all that money on day zero to implement the project, sometimes it's not feasible, or sometimes the business owner has different choices. Sometimes they don't have the tax appetite to use because it generates tax credits, right? For any reasons, right? Whatsoever. This financing portion is fundamental for the growth of this segment. And I'm gonna come back just to make a little explanation here. So the bank financing is basically a loan. Could be short-term loan, could be long-term loan, right? On the third-party ownership, it's a lease, right? So let's say I'm an investor. I pay for the system, I own it, I receive the tax benefit, I depreciate, and you is gonna pay a lower monthly bill than what you're paying now for a certain period of time, and then we transfer ownership. The difference between lease and power purchase agreements, that leases are generally a fixed amount that you pay per month. Power purchase agreements, it's attached to the kilowatt hour. So the more power the system produces, you pay a certain amount for that power. And you basically, it's a bill swap. So let's say you're now paying 20 cents the kilowatt hour for your power, right? So we install you a solar system with a power purchase agreement. Instead of 20 cents, you're now gonna pay 15, 12. So it's a kind of a bill swap. It doesn't involve any cost, no maintenance, no nothing. So it's a big, win. So now, what the investment opportunities that are out there, right? There's two ways, basically, right? As a project developer, we're always looking for, you had a little thing here? No. So, project development. So this money, I thought it had a little laser here, right?
Pointer.
A pointer. There's a pointer, no pointer, right? Okay, so I'm gonna use like a human pointer.
That works.
A human pointer works, right? Yeah, it does it?
It does this. It's not working.
It's okay, it's okay. Yeah, well said. So as a project developer, right, we always need money to identify more land, to identify more business owners, to do all the engineering, all the process pre-construction to the point that we are, let's say, shovel ready. So it demands, investments, right? That we do internally or we do associated with the investors. And we need also project ownership investments, right? So those are people that they, have tax liability to enter as a tax credit investor, or they have funding to enter as a sponsor equity investors, and basically they're gonna sit on an asset that's gonna have a long-term revenue generation, right? It's like rental property. It's very similar to real estate, but instead of renting space, you're selling power. So it's very similar, and it's very attractive. It's very attractive. It's most cases, most markets, right? Because it depends on how much you can sell that power for. It depends how much efficiency your system has in terms of production, right? But in most markets that we have seen, it delivers a better return on investment than a real estate or anything else, considering how low the risk of this investment is. I think that's the best thing out there, because you have, as the when you own the project, right, that project will continue producing power, right? There's no way it's going to stop, or everything has warranty on it. So that risk doesn't exist. And on the buyer side, you sign long-term agreements to sell that power. That's backed by the buyer assets. So there's no way you're not going to get paid, right? So there will be no crash, there will be no nothing. You're for sure going to receive the money in the long run. So for every $1 invested in the project, the owner of that project will receive between 50 and 70% of that money back in the year one as a tax incentive. So if you have a tax liability and you're giving money to the IRS, like that's not a good idea. You can turn that money into a percentage ownership of a project that's gonna produce you 25 years of cash flow, right? You get most of the money back year one, and you stay in the partnership. But there is a portion of the sponsor equity between 50 and 30% of the project that can be the same, or different investors gotta come in, and they keep a higher percentage of the project cash flow. It's good too. So these are the investment opportunities that we work with investors on these two elements here, right? Whatever they need. And this is a business case, right? Just to close it off. It's a pet supply store, right? We put some a system of 120 kilowatt, okay? They had zero, they didn't invest anything in the project, zero. And they're gonna save $13,000 per year, doing nothing. And in 25 years, the projected economy of the project is 390,000. 30 years, I believe, 30 years economy on projected net value. If you consider that the energy cost is gonna go up like anything else, right, at 3-5% per year, this will easily surpass $1 million, because you have the compound energy rates, right? I should have put that number here. Apologize. This is the net present value, right? If there is no raise in the energy ever, they're gonna save almost $400,000. With the energy raises, 1, maybe 2 million. I don't have that number, but it's gonna be much higher. Because every time, and this is the thing, every time the utility companies raise their rates, the savings of these guys increase it too. So the graph of savings along the year, keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. So sometimes 20 years from now, it's quadrupled. You know, it's huge, it's massive. The opportunities out there for everybody, right? For investors and also for property owners that want to have freedom and savings from the utility companies. All right. So yeah, that's it. I'm Leandro, in a sabbatical, and was a pleasure being here today. If you have any questions.
Thank you. So yeah, I just want to also clarify, or ask Leo to clarify that, because this looks like a well-established business, or maybe even a franchise business or something like that. You are, in fact, the CEO. You started this company up in New York, and you've moved down to Mount Airy. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So you're talking with the CEO of this company who has, brought himself down to Carroll County, which is pretty exciting. So we're glad to have you in our community. So thank you for connecting with us.
Well, I'm one of you guys now.
So anybody here have questions for Leo?
What made you pick Carroll County?
It was a mix of factors. Some personal. And some mostly personal, I would say, because we were living in New York by ourselves, right? And we had the kids, and then living in an apartment with 2 kids, no family. Then we say, look, let's go to Maryland to stay nearby our family in Bethesda. So we stayed in Bethesda for a while, didn't like it. and then we started looking for somewhere a little more remote, a little further, so that would give us a more sense of a community. So we end up landing in Mount Airy after losing a few bids in Newmarket, and then we got this house in Mount Airy that we love it.
Good choice.
Chris?
I had 2 questions. One is about the lease. Is there a buy option at the end of the lease?
There is a buyout during the terms of the lease, and some of the leases they already have that option modeled. There's one lease option, right? That at the year 7, okay, you're basically obligated to buy, right? But then they can turn that amount left of the system into a loan. So you pay another 3 years. So it's like if it was a 10-year lease, but it's a 7. At the end of the lease, you buy, but there already have a loan pre-approved for you. So you can choose, you want to pay cash or you want to pay another 3 years of a loan. And then it automatically transfers ownership to you.
Cool. And then the other question is, I lost my notes.
On the power purchase agreement side, in general, the contracts are longer, generally 20 years, 25 years. And you have buyouts either each year or every 5 years. You have buyout options that you can pay like the longer you take to buy, the less you pay. But
Gotcha. And then the other question was around sponsor equity. Do you take individual sponsors, or is this mainly large investment groups? And is there more education about this?
So these are projects. So on the there, let's say there are 3 types of projects. Okay. Residential projects, okay, that goes the investment between the cost of the project, gross cost of the project, right, between $15,000 to $100,000, right? There are commercial scale projects that would go from $100,000 to maybe $5 million, and then we have utility and community solar scale that would go from $2 million to endless, right, multi-billions. You have Saudi Arabia doing like $400 billion projects, right? We look for investors to enter into pools to finance commercial scale projects. So in general, we deal with the investors that will have 100 to and plus $1,000, because it's difficult to manage
Multiple small investors.
small investors and
cats.
right. It's just more difficult. It's difficult in general, not only to to share the money, but also to educate, for them to go after, and they gotta have their accountant to inform them whether they're gonna qualify or not, right? I cannot give you tax advice, right? I can tell you that in theory anybody can qualify, but I'm not qualified to give you tax advice whether you can. So smaller investors, they have kind of a barrier of entry because of gotta have some structures and qualify on IRS regulations that are completely out of my control.
So it sounds like you have to be an accredited investor.
No,
according to the SEC
it does.
standard.
No, it doesn't necessarily have to be accredited investors.
Alright.
It does have to. So not anyone can claim the tax credit, right? You have some criterias of who what can claim, and that you gotta check.
Tina from Infant Love Project.
I love everything about this as far as like doing good for the planet, etc. Question in regards to the money that, say, the homeowner or the business in the corporate scenario pays to you, the company, the reimbursing the investors, paying for the utility of it. I know that I've heard that if X amount of energy that's produced from the system is not utilized, it can be then, and correct me if I'm wrong, sold back to the utility. Excess. Is any of that factored in? Is Maryland a state where, if I just from a homeowner standpoint, if I were able to put solar on and I was not using all the energy that was generated, how would that help me offset or income myself?
You get paid from the utility, yes. But you get paid a lower value. But you do. So we try to design a system to supply 100% of what you need, right? So we have completely avoid the payments to the utility company. If it happens that you consume less than you're producing, the utility company will buy the excess power from you. And so we can model that. We can let's say assume we design a system for you of 120% of your historical consumption. I don't know how much you're going to use in the future, but I know how much you used in the past 12 months, right? We can model that and say, okay, we're going to design this system with 120%. So in this 100%, you're going to save the full utility rate. The extra 20% is going to be the buyback, right? Which is a little less than what you pay.
And then if it were in a corporate scenario with investor funds going in, is that an additional income stream for the investors? Does that ever happen in the corporate scenario to be able to sell back?
Yeah, so what happens in the power purchase agreements that we establish a tariff that we're gonna get paid for the power, right? So you already know before we start the construction what that cash flow is gonna be, very precisely.
Any questions on Facebook?
A lot of good mornings and welcome to Carroll Counties.
Welcome to Carroll County.
Mornings.
Any other questions from the back here?
Could you maybe talk about your organization, your footprint, your folks behind, the size of your company, et cetera?
So we have most of our people working remotely, right? So everybody now, after the COVID, everybody, we closed. We had the headquarters in New York City, right? So New York City was that chaos. Then we closed, and then everybody started working from home. So now we have people in Connecticut, right? Mostly people installation teams, right? A van with 2-3 guys.
Right.
We have in New Jersey, right? And in Maryland here, I'm the only one in Maryland. We have about 10 people in Brazil. We have one office, opening a second one. In India, we have some of our engineering team that work on the engineering designs, basically providing support to the American operations. Right now, we're licensed in Connecticut, New Jersey, parts of New York, Maryland, okay? And we're in the pipeline for Pennsylvania, Delaware, Virginia, DC, to close up this mid-Atlantic area here. And also Mississippi. We already have one person there that we have a deal, a joint venture to open one of our offices in there in Mississippi. And we're in negotiation, very like close to like verbal agreement already for Louisiana, Texas, Missouri. Yeah. So that's our current footprint. Now, these joint ventures, each one of them operates separately. So they're not my company. They're companies that are, work based on the framework that I created on how this business gets done.
And Leo was telling me earlier, his background's as a biochemist, right? And you came into this world through working in biochemistry and working for green credits and carbon monitoring or something like that.
Yeah. I studied I'm biochemical engineer by trade from the University of São Paulo. When I graduated, I went to my small city there in Brazil, and I sent my resume to the 2 only companies who had engineers. They didn't want me. None of them wanted me. One of them called me later, and then, but too late. But then what happens is that I was. I started I was a chemical technician in high school. I became a technician in chemistry. So I worked on labs, quality control labs, etc. And then from the labs, I went to quality management, which was like writing the procedures and making sure the procedures were okay to whatever we were testing. And then they hired me to do inspections on carbon credits, right? And then on the carbon, then I entered this whole sustainability universe, right? Climate change, sustainability, and clean energy is an essential, right, part of the sustainability change that we're going through. And so then one day, so how I really entered in this business was one day I was auditing a hydropower plant in Ecuador. What's the Ecuador capital? Forgot. Quito. In Quito. I was in Quito, and then the guy who were doing a power plant, he said, "Oh, we're doing also solar. We're doing a solar farm." And then I said, "And who's gonna build the solar farm? How is the process going, right?" And then he said, we don't know, we don't have it." Then I went back to Brazil. I made a connection with a company that people I knew that was starting a solar company in Brazil in 2010. we brought in some Israeli, French people from Europe because they were already advanced, right? In Europe, the solar field started in 2004, 3, right? By 2010, it was kind of like stagnating. So they're crazy looking for new opportunities. So they came in, and then we did the first solar project of Ecuador ever.
Nice. Wow.
And then I kind of got into this. I said, look, this is better than the carbon. If I stay like, just calculating the carbon emissions. I have the tools, the skills to actually make the emissions to get reduced, right? And then that's how it started in Brazil. But Brazil at that time, they did not have the regulatory frameworks that are necessary for this business to run, like the power buyback, right? Like that you asked, right? Like the net metering policies that allows you to export the power and take it back, right? Brazil at that time did not even allow you to produce your own power, right? You're prohibited to do your power generation connected to the grid. You had to choose. You want to produce your own power, you gotta be off grid. So, and the equipment were expensive because logistically, a lot of stuff were expensive, and there was a lack of capital. Up to this date, Brazil, their financing, we're talking about 16% APR.
Oh my God.
So it's very difficult to get projects to happen on the financing side because 16% in 5 years, it's like insane, right? You can't do a 20-year loan because you pay 5 times the amount. So very difficult on the capital side. And so talked to my wife. I had lived in New York for a few years, met my wife. She went to Brazil with me. And then we were in Brazil. I said, look, why don't we go back to New York, right? Then I went back to New York. During that process, the company was selected to an incubator in New York, financed by the state. I don't remember exactly the name, so long ago, 2014. And then that's when I started to, work on it, and it has been a process, right? Now I have a bunch of partners in multiple areas, which has been great. But most of my history, I was, or maybe I can say am, a solar entrepreneur, right? With no social network whatsoever, right? No, absolutely. I don't know anybody. I didn't know anybody, right? And didn't have that much capital, right? So it's bootstrap started, like $2,000 website business type of thing. And so we changed a lot of market niche, selling engineering designs instead of projects, changing little thing here and there. And I believe finally, in the last years or months or so, we're now refining the business model that is going to allow us to grow at the speed we can and that the planet needs.
That's great.
That's
Very
an
nice,
awesome
very
story. Excellent.
And we always end with the question, what can we as a community do to help you? So, I can already think of a few things since you're brand new to Carroll County, but I'm curious to understand, how do you enter this market in Maryland? Do you work with BGE, or are you circumventing them, or what is the
BGE, the utility company don't like us much.
Well, join the club.
Right? Because in theory, every customer that we take to produce their own power doesn't buy power from them anymore. Right? And so they don't attack us publicly because it would be like a terrible PR.
Right.
Okay, but they don't are much in our favor. We work directly with the property owners. So who's gonna benefit? So we have two people that we are always looking for to help, right? But beyond getting help, whenever the way I get helped, right, is by helping others. Okay, so if a property owner decides to put a solar system or storage system or retrofit their LED, right? I'll get the project and I'll make money. So that's a big help. Okay? But they are gonna save you more money in the long run than what the profit that I will have.
Yeah.
So one way or the two ways is by helping me by introducing property owners that would be interested in saving money on their bills and increasing their property value by implementing sustainable energy solutions, right? And by introducing us to investors who wants to turn their tax liability and their money that may now be in low return investments, okay? Let's help them make a better investment, right? So that way we got money to fund the property owners that can do their projects with no money out of pocket.
And are you able to grow and scale this business just through your own sales, or do you need to at some point raise growth capital or venture capital?
I have a big vision, right? Things that I didn't say here, by the way.
This is good, having a vision.
And for that piece, right, I would need either to do what I think we can do faster. I would need to have some kind of venture capital to do it, right? Because, for example, I'll tell a little bit what he's asked me about who can invest in solar, right? There is a way to make that feasible at small scale for small investors,
Yeah.
right? And even make the investment liquid, right? Because right now, if you put the investment there, right, here, right, for the project ownership, you own that $5 million LLC, right? That's a cash cow, fine. But then, what if you wanna exit it and do something else, right? It's not that easy today. So this is basically a long-term ownership, but it doesn't have to be. So there is mechanisms and technology that would allow us to open up for smaller investors and make that investment a little more liquid, because the tax equity, there are regulations.
I think I know somebody who can help you with that idea, yeah.
Right?
There we go.
So if we can achieve, right? It's doable, right? If I can achieve the level where I can open up the project ownership to smaller investors and make it liquid, so more people can put the money in, knowing that tomorrow, if there is a tragedy and I need it, I can, even if I lose a little bit, I can exit it, right? That's a big small revolution that can play a big role in the future of our country's transition to a low carbon society.
Nice.
We have online, we have Julius Knapp saying, I've started to see some interest in installing raised solar canopies over cropland. In some cases, tall enough to drive a combine beneath them. Not only would the farmers be able to collect solar energy, but they also prevent moisture evaporation from the soil.
Mm-hmm.
Have you also seen any interest in this? What things should people think about if they were considering such a project? Because we have a lot of farmland in Carroll County.
Yeah, Carroll County, as far as I know, was the first place in the country who passed a regulation obligating the solar developers to do some kind of agricultural activity in the solar farm. You can't build a solar farm only in Carroll County.
You have to have some kind of crop underneath of it or
You,
grazing
you
underneath
have
of it.
to have a crop between the arrays, or you gotta raise sheeps, or you gotta have beehives. These are the three options you have to have.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's doable. It's doable to do what she said, to do elevated, right? The only thing is, there are some locations that's a little windy, right? So the taller you install the panels, the larger it becomes the wind lift potential. So it's kind of an engineering challenge, right? Not too much, right? With, those guys in Dubai, they build 100 floors in the sand. So it's like, you're gonna tell me we cannot do like a solar panel in Dubai? Like, really? So,
It's a cost effective.
right? But exactly. But then you need deeper foundations, right? And you use more materials, thicker materials. So it costs more. The cost per panel installed is bigger, right? And for the project developer, pure project developer that just wanna sell power, doesn't wanna plant flowers, right? It is a challenge. So we would have to find a second revenue. Or for example, and then it's a challenge because then we would have to, I have this solar farm here, and I have to lease this land back to somebody to do agriculture, to create a new revenue. But then we're gonna be competing against other agricultures that may be leasing land, larger scale, lower price, fewer restrictions of how you can plant. So I don't know exactly how it's gonna play. Technically possible, financially feasibility to be seen.
Good answer.
Very good.
Well, thank you, Leah, very much. And unless there's any other questions or comments on the Facebook Live channel, okay. So we have a few minutes left here for any kind of community updates. If anybody wants to get up and say anything else about what they're up to right now. Anybody here have an update? I can tell you right now that Magic, as I announced last week, our organization here as a community sponsor, we are looking for anyone who wants to come out and help renovate our new office on Main Street. We are going to be there Saturday. Saturday, what time?
9:30 to 4. So even if you can just give an hour or two, stop in between that time frame.
Yeah, and we're going to have hot apple cider,
Hot chocolate, some goodies to eat,
some
lots
treats,
of sugar,
some swag. Some swag.
some
Anyway.
swag.
So if you want to come out, it's at 38 West Main Street this Saturday, 9:30 to 4 a.m. 4 p.m.
4 p.m.
We are
That'll be a long
9:30 to
day.
4 p.m. We are going to be there, just pulling up carpet, doing some painting. This is the old Supernatural Harvest and Natural store between Jeannie Bird and Raphael's on Main Street. Anyone else have an update they want to give?
I do before I close out.
Come on up, Tina. Yeah.
Excellent. So it's the holiday season, and this coming weekend is the last weekend prior to Christmas. So when you're down on Main Street, getting ready to put a couple hours in to help Magic, also go to the holiday market, which is on Main Street across from Joe Hansen's. It's open Saturday and Sunday from 9 to 1. Shop local, support local. We have really good food and music and a train garden and some Be Kind signs. You can give us gifts, but a lot of other artisans who are making unique gifts that you can give that you never even thought, wow, that's an awesome idea. And it helps to support the local economy. So highly encourage you to shop local, come to Main Street over the weekend. And I think that's it for the for the local shop, local plug.
Rick, do you have any more ornaments that you're giving out? Or are they all
Yes.
spoken for?
Nope, help yourself on
So-
the shelf.
Yeah, so back here on the shelf, for those of you who are here in person, we have Startup Portal Christmas ornaments.
Yes, you have so many perks of coming to 1MC in person here at the Startup Portal. So I guess I want to close it out by saying thank you to the Startup Portal for our location, CFO Rick, he's awesome. And for Magic, helping to bring 1 million cups to Maryland and getting everything kick-started here. To Jeannie Bird for the Go-Go Juice and the Yummy Munchies. And then to Furnace Hills, congratulations on the place in the mall and giving us some online discounts for purchasing coffee. We really appreciate that. Everybody who's come today, thank you so much. Some of the magic, if you're not here, you got to come because some of the magic that happens here happens offline after we've done with our presentations. So sometimes we have one presenter, sometimes we have two. And in 2 weeks, it could be you. Go to 1 million cups, the number 1millioncups.com/Westminster, and click apply to present. You only need a couple of sentences to tell us about you, and then get you slotted in to present to the amazing, resourceful community that we have here for entrepreneurs. Like it's not sales, it's helping to understand where you are in your business so we can help lift you up. And so I guess it's happy holidays from the 1NC community. Thanks so much.